Hello, friends, and thank you as always for visiting the Legend Sports Universe YouTube channel, Legend Sports Universe, where legends play forever. Last night here on the channel, we introduced a little bit of a preview video for year 3 of the Franchise Stars Baseball League, which will begin this Friday. I'm going to have at least 2 streams, possibly 3, depending on scheduling, for the day as year 3 of the FSBL gets underway. I greatly appreciate everyone's patience with me getting involved in the Madden project. The gap between year 2 and year 3 was significantly longer than I was hoping for it to be. But I'm excited to be back at baseball streaming in addition to doing the football broadcast. Buckshot, how are you, buddy? First one in. I'll send you that cookie, buddy. Thanks for checking in, man. I hope all is good with you. So we're just going to do a little bit. I've got a little bit of time here. I'm going to go through some of the off-season trades and what they could mean for the different teams. We're certainly a little bit more active this off-season than last off-season. And then we'll take a look at maybe time allows, go through a couple of rosters. Oreos, can't go wrong with Oreos, Buckshot. Hey, Cole, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for checking in. Take a look at some of the teams that maybe have some impact rookies that could change how things play out in this year 3. So we're going to open up. So see here, we got the trade list. There's the trade deadline of last year, July 30th, that Royals deal when they acquired Jeff. Echoing pretty bad. Why would I be echoing pretty bad? Let me see on my settings. Uh, Mic is on the headset. No, I know. I always appreciate if you guys tell me something like that. But the question is why? Why am I echoing here? Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can. I know it probably just says the audio right now. Let me see if that. Let me know if that helped it out at all. Um, Let's see. Did that make any kind of a difference? If you guys can let me know, I would appreciate that. I'm not sure what was. There we go. All right. Yeah, there's a setting on my mic thing, and I guess it had come disconnected, and when I rehooked it in, I forgot to hit the right button. So apologies for that, but thanks for letting me know that. All right, so we'll go back into the transactions here. We'll get back to that trade list, and go down here. We'll scroll down to November as we got the offseason rolling. So there you see the last trade of the deadline last year was the Giants getting Jeff Montgomery from the Royals for the playoff push. Giants, the champions of year 2. So that certainly helped them a great deal. Montgomery was solid for them down the stretch and in the postseason. So that was a worthwhile trade for them. So now we get to November and we get to the off-season moves here after the World Series ended. And the most active team right at the start, the California Angels, made a couple of deals here and they're tied together. So they picked up Frank Demery and Aaron Sanchez from the Cubs for Gary Pettis. Now, of course, the Angels have had Mike Trout since the start, so they got a lucky draw there in terms of getting Trout from the beginning. So Pettis is really just a speedster, but a reserve who wasn't going to get much playing time for the Angels. Having his speed off the bench certainly helped, but without getting any regular playing time, they dealt him for Demery and Sanchez, who they hope is going to be somebody who can help an Angels bullpen that has not been particularly good. But they then went and turned around and they dealt their closer, Francisco Rodriguez, traded to the Rangers. So they traded Rodriguez in the division to pick up John Burkett, who will fight for a rotation spot this season, and Oddibe McDowell. So what they basically did was they got rid of Pettis and replaced him with a slightly slower but still fleet center fielder who's also a bit better with the bat than Pettis was. So I like the logic of it. K-Rod is certainly a bit to give up, but the fact is the Angels have far bigger issues than just a closer, especially as they're trying to gain ground in the American League West, where the Oakland A's are running roughshod over everybody in the first 2 years. The Angels were a wild card team in year one, but the Angels missed the playoffs last season. So trying to kind of bolster they've now gotten a reliever and a starter, not top end guys by any stretch, but a reliever and a starter and a decent center fielder. We'll take a look here. We'll pop onto the Angels roster for the moment. So John Burkett probably doesn't make the rotation right out of the bat. They have Tanana and Messersmith, who were both solid last year. Jared Washburn, the rookie, will slot in to that rotation as well. Mike Witt was horrible last season. So Witt's going to start down in the minors. Ed Figueroa and Irvin Santana will probably round out that rotation to start. Burkett last year stayed down in the minors for the Rangers. The year before, he was 8-8 with a 3.96 ERA. A little surprised the Rangers couldn't find room for Burkett in their rotation a year ago. I don't think he was injured, so I just think that was the Rangers just never giving him the call up. If we go and we'll take a look here at O.B. McDowell. McDowell has played with a bit of regularity for the Rangers. He's been their main center fielder for their first 2 years. See, last year, 274, 9 homers, 38 RBIs, 18 steals. Again, I'm not sure how much McDowell is going to play because you do have Mike Trout there, and Trout has been pretty durable. He's played 147 and 145 over the first couple of years for the Angels. He's had the power numbers. The average has been a little bit down for Trout, but we'll see. Again, everybody started their career at age 22, so nobody is old by any stretch here. So Trout may actually still improve a bit, but still 33 homers, 40 homers. It shows you the limitations of the Angels' offense there. That Trout, despite 40 and 33 homers, has not driven in 100 runs in either of those 2 seasons. But McDowell will give you a little bit of flexibility. He'll give you some speed off the bench. If you want to, you can try to play him in a corner outfield position. I mean, you've got Cole Calhoun, Don Baylor, Brian Downing. So the Angels, have a little bit of work in that outfield. That trade, getting McDowell was kind of a bonus for them. It's really more about Burkett and Aaron Sanchez as far as the Angels go in making that deal. So they were the most active team to make. They were the kind of the first team to strike the trade deadline stuff. I apologize if that kind of the scrolling sound is a little bit annoying. I recognize. Minor deal there. The Mets and the Braves, again, surprisingly dealing inside the division. The Mets acquired Dennis Menke for Angel Pagan, basically a backup infielder for a backup outfielder. Pagan has been on the Mets big league roster for these first couple of years, but Pagan doesn't really play at all. He's just kind of a speed guy off the bench, maybe an occasional late inning defensive help guy. And Dennis Menke wasn't playing much for the Braves either. So that's just kind of a swap of spare parts. This is one that shocked me. And this is one of those where if you get into real life, I can imagine there being a bit up in arms in Cleveland. Luke Easter was traded from the Indians to the Marlins. A swap, Luke Easter for Josh Willingham. I'm not really sure what that trade gets either team. Now, Luke Easter, of course, best known for the best single game in Franchise Stars Baseball League history. Game 1 of last year's ALCS, Red Sox and Indians. Red Sox 10-0 lead in the 5th inning. The Indians came back to win that game 12-10 in extras. Easter drove in the tying runs in the 8th and then hit the walk-off 2-run homer in the 10th for the Indians to give them that lead. So he was the key figure in the most dramatic single game in FSBL history. But the fact is, Easter did not really have a particularly good season. We'll scroll over here to the Marlins for a little bit, and we'll take a look. Easter should certainly get more time. So Easter only played 37 games in the regular season for the Indians last year, only hit 221. He was solid the year before, low on base percentage, but 271, 17 homers, 65 RBIs in year 1 for Easter. He can play first base and all the outfield positions. So for the Marlins, this deal makes a bit of sense. I'm not exactly sure what the benefit is. We'll scroll over here to the Indians real quick. Take a quick little look at Josh Willingham. Willingham does make the big club out of spring training. I mean, Willingham had played sparingly. You know, it's kind of a lateral move. I mean, Willingham's a righty. The Indians do have a good amount of left-handed bats, so that may have been just picking up a righty. That's the only gain I can think of for Willingham and Easter. I mean, Easter certainly as productive, if not better, than Willingham, and Easter gives you more flexibility. So a little bit of a questionable one for the Indians dealing Luke Easter in that spot. Let's go back out here to the transactions list once again. Oh, not the waiver wire. Waiver wire is pretty active right now because we've just set the rosters for the opening day. So there might be some interesting signings coming up in the next week or so. Scroll down that trade list again. Easter and Willingham. So now this is another interesting one. So the Braves made a couple of moves. The Braves picked up Larry Sorensen and Dave May from the Brewers for Felipe Alou. The Braves are going to start playing Dale Murphy. He's come through the minors. Now they're going to start playing Murphy every day in center. You've got Wally Berger out there. Berger has produced well for them. Berger could play left. So the Braves kind of getting another role outfielder in Dave May. Larry Sorensen, though, I'm not sure Larry Sorensen is a good enough pickup to warrant dealing Alou. Alou had a pretty fine season for them. We'll check out Sorensen first here as we scroll our way through. Yeah, so I mean, Sorensen's kind of low on the list. Sorensen 5-4, 4.34 a year ago. He met between starting and relieving for the Brewers. He was very active out of the bullpen. He had like 20 decisions out of the bullpen 2 years ago. A low 4 ERA guy. I mean, the Braves have a bunch of pitchers who are better than that. So dealing Felipe Alou in that spot. Alou wasn't great last year, but Alou was solid. Let's check out Felipe Alou's numbers. 253. I mean, that 272 OBP is pretty rough. But 23 homers, 62 RBIs. Alou can play all the outfield positions. He's decent defensively too. So again, I don't know if Larry Sorensen. I feel like if you were going to deal Felipe Alou, the Braves probably could have gotten more than that, especially because now they're going to turn around and put Dave May is actually being put on waivers, and salary cap is not a factor in this league. So that's a little bit of a head scratcher from the Braves. Again, I will overrule really bad trades, like completely unfathomable ones. I don't think this one qualifies as that. I mean, bad trades happen in baseball all the time. So I don't want to jump in there and interject myself into every single trade. But that one was a bit of a questionable one in as far as I am concerned. A couple more trades there in December. The Brewers again trading. The Brewers traded Doug Davis to the Royals for Brian McRae. The Mariners trading with the Orioles, Jim Gentile and Greg Olson from the Orioles to the Mariners for Kenji Jojima. The Orioles not happy with the Rick Dempsey. I'm trying to remember who the other. I think it's Rick Dempsey and Hank Severide for the Orioles. So not happy with that combination of players. So they traded for Jojima. They give up a bit. I mean, Jim Gentile wasn't really going to play very much for the Orioles behind Eddie Murray. We'll kind of take a look here. Yeah, so Gentile wouldn't have played much there. Plus Boog Powell, Boog Powell was a runner-up in the Rookie of the Year voting last year. So Gentile was just kind of a man without a home. They dealt Olson too. Jojima last year for Seattle, 262, 12 homers, 67 runs batted in. Also a very solid defensive catcher. So he moves to the top of the line there. The way it looks like right now is Rick Dempsey will back him up. Hank Severide ends up down in the minor leagues for the Orioles at this point. check out as far as the Mariners go in that deal. I think this deal helps them out a great deal. Gentile will make the big club out of spring training. He will get time at first base by working something out with Tino Martinez. And if you go into the bullpen, Greg Olson will make the Mariners bullpen out of spring training. Olson did not play much for the Orioles. Didn't use him much last year, actually. 4.22. He only pitched 10 innings. He pitched 18 and 2/3 innings in year one and put up a 0.96 ERA. So that might be a big pickup there for the Mariners. The Mariners bullpen last year, actually, other than this guy, Arthur Rhodes, who was terrible, 5.68. But Enrique Romo, 2.28. J.J. Putz is a rookie this year. Jeff Nelson, 4.36. And now you've put Olson into that situation, too. Mike Schooler, 3.18. Jerry Reed, 3.38. So not a terrible bullpen there for the Mariners, who also get rookie Freddie Garcia, who's going to slot into the rotation in here in year three for the Mariners. But again, in that division, it's such an uphill climb dealing with the A's, who have so much more talent than everybody else has. Get back into our trade list here. Did Davis and McRae. Angels back at it again. They traded Albie Pearson to the Indians. That was actually before I adjusted. Alonso Hernandez is a fake player, so he's going to be a nothing. And rookie shortstop Woody Held. So that's actually just a swap of, again, backup guys. Albie Pearson, I think, is a bit better than Woody Held is, which may be why they got the kind of scrub minor leaguer thrown into that package. But the Angels at shortstop, we'll take a quick look over there. I mean, Woody Held can absolutely compete for that starting job. Dick Schofield, 241 a year ago, 2 homers, 20 RBIs. Schofield's a fine fielder, but Woody Held can certainly get in the mix for that job there. But again, that's that on the grand scheme of things. That's a pretty minor deal. Go back. Apologize, trying to kind of bounce my way through here. I wish there was a little bit of an easier way to navigate back between these two screens. It's a little bouncy, so I apologize for that. Indians make another deal. They dealt Ed Morgan, and Ed Morgan wasn't going to get much time at first base, although dealing Ed Morgan and dealing Luke Easter in the same offseason doesn't really give them a lot of protection behind Jim Thome. I guess they probably still have Carlos Santana. So Santana will be the backup for Thome. I mean, Thome is going to play pretty much every day there. But they deal Morgan to the Mets for Kevin Biggio, who the Mets had gotten from the Blue Jays a year ago and was just kind of languishing in the minors. And this is an interesting one. Square Moore. Now, Square Moore is a relatively, in terms of baseball history, a relatively nondescript minor Negro League player. And Moore started out here with very low ratings and a very mediocre potential because he wasn't really a top Negro League guy by any means. But Square Moore has evolved. He's evolved to a 74, which is a very good rating under my system for a reliever. And last year with the Mets, 28 appearances, 24 holds, a 1.16 earned run average for Square Moore. Square Moore is going to be a very intriguing part of this Indians bullpen in this year ahead. And the bullpen has been the Indians' weak spot. And they were the American League champions despite that. But there are a lot of high ERAs from this team. You saw Joe Smith was miserable. He was up over 8. There was a lot of the shuttle between Cleveland and AAA for their bullpen last year was very, very active. There you see Steve Carsey. Carsey was good at 2.38. Lloyd Brown, 4.29. So Moore comes in and certainly improves this bullpen. Stan Williams, who was very good in the postseason, but Williams, 5.76. There's a lot of weak sauce in this Indians bullpen from a year ago. Jose Mesa stunk as well. So if Square Moore can catch the lightning in the bottle thing, I'm actually a little bit surprised the Mets let Square Moore go, especially for Ed Morgan, who Lucas Duda had been serviceable. But the Mets also have a rookie in Pete Alonso, who's going to become their everyday first baseman there. So the Ed Morgan pickup probably pushes Duda down to the minors, maybe. But Ed Morgan is still going to back up Alonso there. Yeah, when Morgan only played 8 games in year one, 2 games in year two. So he was kind of sitting down in the minors. Don't judge that 364 average over 33 big league at bats. Morgan isn't that good a player. But I'm just a little bit surprised that given Square Moore's performance last year, even though it was a bit of a surprise performance, that the Mets unloaded him for in that kind of a deal. Again, by no means a horrible trade. I'm just not really sure that they really get anything out of that. This is an interesting one. I kind of like this deal. Mariners and Rockies. The Mariners send Dave Henderson, who was not going to get much playing time behind Ken Griffey Jr., out there in Seattle. And they trade Henderson to pick up Pedro Estacio. And the Mariners rotation was better than expected last year, but certainly not great. And Kaz Matsui. Matsui can play second. He can play short. He gives them a little speed. He gives them a little versatility. Again, not great players, but Dave Henderson wasn't getting any playing time. So it's a kind of a logical trade, and Henderson is certainly better than Jay Payton, who the Rockies have been sending out there. So we'll check out here Estacio a year ago, 13-16, but a 4.13 ERA pitching for Colorado. That is not a bad mark for Estacio, coming out of Colorado. So Estacio should be a factor for the Mariners rotation this year. Kaz Matsui will get in as a reserve. He won't play over Brett Boone. But again, Matsui can play second. He can play short. Omar Vizquel will get the first crack at short, and hopefully he'll hit enough. He only hit 225 a year ago. So to send him out there for 600 at bats is a career 245 hitter through the first 2 years of the FSBL. So Matsui will give them a little bit of flexibility there in both of those spots, some speed off the bench. For the Rockies, we'll get to them. Check out Dave Henderson. Henderson becomes the starting center fielder. There you can see Henderson only playing 4 games over the first 2 years for the Mariners. So Henderson will get a chance now. Very good against lefties. Dave Henderson could put up some pretty decent numbers out there in Colorado, actually. Well, that'll be an interesting one to watch. Always liked Hendu. Remember his, of course, well-known home run off of Donnie Moore in a situation that ended tragically for Donnie Moore, of course. Donnie Moore, a rookie for the Angels this year, by the way. Cardinals and Mets strike a deal. Asdrubal Cabrera goes from the Mets to the Cardinals for Joe Cunningham. Cunningham, not a bad first baseman. So the Mets have stockpiled first baseman for some odd reason. They now have Duda and Cunningham and Ed Morgan behind Pete Alonso. So the Mets, I don't know if they're going to kind of turn one of those guys around to something else maybe at this year's trade deadline. We'll kind of see. Cabrera wasn't playing much for the Mets. Cabrera for the Cardinals. He gives them some versatility because Asdrubal Cabrera can play a switch hitter with a little bit of pop who can play pretty much everywhere. That's not a bad depth move for the Cardinals. And the last trade is probably the most intriguing of all of them. This one took until spring training to actually get done. The Rays and the Yankees trade within the division. The Yankees' biggest weakness over the first couple of years has been a lack of speed. They rectify that, dealing from strength to acquire Carl Crawford. Crawford goes from the Rays to the Yankees in exchange for Willie Randolph and reliever Johnny Murphy. Randolph was drafted by the Yankees 2 years ago in a draft where they also took Joe Gordon. Randolph's a fine player. Joe Gordon was a better player, and Gil McDougald had already established himself at second base in year one. So Randolph was going to have to leapfrog two guys there. A very talented player, but just no room at the end as far as the Yankees were concerned. The Yankees have promoted Gordon this year. So Randolph was still going to be down in AAA. So the Yankees turn him around along with young reliever Johnny Murphy, and they bring in Crawford, who will give them some speed. Now, the dealing Crawford from the Rays is interesting. They got quality for him. So I certainly can see the deal being made. Johnny Murphy, again, Murphy's a young rookie. Murphy hadn't played yet. Murphy's a potential reliever. He will fit right into the Rays bullpen, and of course the Rays fighting an uphill climb in that division with the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the Orioles have been solid, and now the Blue Jays, making a big splash in the last draft, bringing in Todd B. How are you, buddy? I appreciate it. Grandpa Legends, I like that. Yeah, all is good, my friend. Thank you very much. I appreciate you checking in. So that deal, um, Murphy will slot right in for the Rays. And as I mentioned, the other teams in the division, the Blue Jays with Josh Gibson as a rookie for them this year, John Olerud coming on board, Pat Henkin and Hyunjin Ryu. The Blue Jays could make a bit of a leap this year. So the Rays, just trying to improve and dealing Carl Crawford, yes, you lose some speed, but you do pick up Willie Randolph. Randolph will take over the starting role there. Akinori Iwamura last year, 268, 4 homers, 27 RBIs, and also not a great defensive second baseman. So Randolph, a minor league all-star last year, Randolph will be a significant upgrade at second for the Rays, who will kind of try to piece their outfield together now. BJ Upton, Randy Wynn, Desmond Jennings, Negro Leaguer Charlie Biot was their pickup as their Negro League selection in last year's draft. Sam Fold, Steven Souza, Matt Joyce. I mean, it's not a terrific outfield there, but they'll put somebody else out there in left and hope that between Randolph and Johnny Murphy, they can counter the loss of Carl Crawford. As for Crawford does give the Yankees speed, but now the Yankees are going to have to shuffle their lineup a little bit. Charlie Keller, who has been terrific for the Yankees in the first two seasons, 301, 383, 594 slash line for Keller, 28 homers and 36 homers over the first 2 years for Keller for the Bombers. Keller's going to have to play, which puts Keller into the DH spot. But now you've also got Kevin Mitchell. Mitchell's also not a particularly good outfielder. So now the Yankees kind of have a surplus out there in left field. Bernie Williams will stay in center. Aaron Judge will stay in right. So the Yankees are going to kind of have to figure this out. Buckshot, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. I hope all is good with you. Enjoy the rest of your day at work. And if there is an FOD broadcast tonight, I will try to listen to that. Well, I am at work, so have a good one, pal. So Mitchell could play third, but he's an absolute butcher there. So the Yankees really don't want to do that. So you might see some platoon situations. The Yankees are going to have to kind of, an embarrassment of riches of sorts for the Yankees here in terms of the lineup. Billy Johnson's not very good. 241. Johnson's not much of an offensive player. He's not really great defensively. You might see Mitchell play third. You might see Gil McDougald move over to third, and Joe Gordon will become the everyday second baseman. So there are a couple of ways that the Yankees could play this. It'll be interesting to see how they decide to pursue it. So that takes care of the trades from the offseason. Again, a few interesting ones going on in there. I got a couple more minutes here. We'll take a look at a couple of the teams with the most impactful rookies, I think. And that conversation we'll stay here in the AL East because the biggest rookie of all starts here. Josh Gibson, will come right to the big club. He will start from opening day. He will play as long as he doesn't run out of gas. For the Blue Jays, Ernie Witt will stay up with the club as his backup Alejandro Kirk gets sent down to the minors. But Josh Gibson will lead the way for Toronto. Toronto also, again, adding Hyunjin Ryu and Pat Henkin, who will slot right into their rotation. So a really good draft. They've also got John Olerud. Vlad Guerrero Jr., solid there at first base too, but Olerud's going to get some at-bats for sure. So a really strong draft as the Blue Jays try to close the gap in an AL East led by the Yankees and the Red Sox. Team that I really think going to have to keep an eye on this year. The biggest disappointment to me over the first two seasons in the FSBL. But the Detroit Tigers, the Tigers rookies Justin Verlander and Schoolboy Rowe, the Tigers are going to hope to catch in Verlander and Rowe what the Indians caught last year in Addy Joss and Corey Kluber. An immediate impact on the Tigers' rotation. They will join Mickey Lolich, Virgil Trucks, and Mark Fidrich. Fidrich, if you remember, Fidrich, an absolutely atrocious first half in year one. But he righted the ship, had a solid second half, and then was very solid last year. 13-8, 3.14 for the Bird. So Fidrich has really turned a corner. Virgil Trucks has been, had a big improvement last year, going 13-7, an ERA of an even 3. And Mickey Lolich, 15-8, 3.17. The Tigers may have themselves a very nice rotation here. So now it'll be a matter of whether the Tigers' offense can click. They're still waiting for Al Kaline to be as good as expected. He climbed a bit last year. Expect that to climb a little bit more this season. I think you're going to see Kaline go over the 300 mark for the Tigers this season. They could really use a breakout season from Norm Cash. Cash, a rookie a year ago. 21 homers, 66 RBIs for him. They also need Alan Trammell to play like Alan Trammell's capable of. 285 last year, 12 homers, 57 RBIs, an improvement from the year before. So hopefully for the Tigers, Trammell will improve again. Willie Horton, Curtis Granderson, Kaline Northrup. The Tigers lineup is not great. I'm not sure they can get into the playoffs this year. They probably need one good draft of offensive players in order to do that. But I do think the Tigers are significantly going to improve. And the Tigers improving really makes it hard on the Indians. So the Indians have won this division in each of the first 2 years. The Indians stunk in the first half both times. In year one, there was no other real good team in the division. Last year, the Twins were very solid, but the Twins suffered a rash of injuries in the second half. The Indians got hot, were able to chase them down, and take the division title. Twins losing in the wild card game to the Red Sox. But I don't know if the Indians can get away with another poor first half. Now that the Tigers are improving as well. If you've only got one other good team in the division and you don't play up to expectations in the first half, you can overcome that. But now if you've got another really solid team in the division, and I still think the White Sox are kind of waiting to turn a corner as well. The Indians, if they're slow out of the gate this year, may have a bit harder time climbing out of it. What kind of slider settings do you use for injuries? I've got the injuries turned down fairly low. There are injuries that take place, but right now I'm kind of happy with how the injuries have played out. If I do anything, I think I'm going to lower the injury ratings for pitchers. I don't think the pitchers get hurt enough. With position players, I'm very happy with it, but I think I may have the injury ratings for the pitchers a little bit, protecting them a little bit too much. Hey, Cyro, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Yeah, I was off last week. I'm a new grandpa, so my grandson was born last week, and so I was kind of off the streaming thing for a week, spending some quality time with him. But getting back into it this week, hot and heavy. We'll have a couple of football broadcasts this week as well as the FSBL. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. As well as the FSBL getting started on Friday, and I should be back on a pretty steady streaming schedule, something pretty much daily going forward. So let me see. That in the West, the A's are still the class of that division. You know, the Angels made a few deals. The Mariners made a couple of deals. But the A's will continue to run away. Give you an idea of how good the A's are. They added to their surplus of pitching. They added, so Jack Quinn won 19 games in year one and then ended up sitting in the minors in year two. Now they've drafted Vida Blue. Vida Blue isn't even going to crack the big club as of yet because the five guys who they have been so good. So Vida Blue is going to sit in AAA, get his work in there. I keep on waiting, and we'll see if it happens at the trade deadline this year. I keep waiting for the A's to deal from their surplus of pitching and try to get a better, perhaps a catcher or a better second baseman or a better center fielder. Hey, MB, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. I mean, the A's certainly have a big surplus in pitching, so I'm waiting to see them make that deal. I'm going to give it this year of trades too. I may, after year three, take over. Kind of, if I can develop a system on my own to kind of formulate trades, I might consider doing that. I feel like some of the trades that get made, there's a good variety. Some of them I think are very logical. Some of them I think are completely ridiculous. That was particularly true last year. I didn't think any of this year's were necessarily ridiculously lopsided trades. I just thought a couple of the ones this year were kind of, I don't quite know what either team is gaining. They kind of seem like lateral move trades, but those happen again. Those happen in the majors all the time, so it's fine. Like the Mets stockpiling first baseman, doesn't really make a logical sense, that kind of thing. Something like that, especially when they've got Pete Alonso now as a rookie at first base for them. So stuff like that. So it's something that I will consider down the line. So let me see. So we've gone through the American League. We've gone through all the trades. In the National League, this NL East could be really interesting. The Braves have committed finally to playing Dale Murphy every day out in center field. What that means for Wally Berger, we'll kind of wait and see, because Berger has been a powerhouse for the Braves, who have had a very hard time scoring runs. Experiencing trades like a field dreams? No, Todd. No. Nothing of that nature. Or just everybody just gets traded for everybody. I know people get a kick out of it. I get it. But and I applaud Clue and Steve for that project. That project's a lot of fun. It's not really my thing. Like I don't do fantasy baseball or that kind of stuff, but it's just fun. Like I do the draft, and then like last year it took me 50 games to even create a manager file for that. So we'll see if I get on the ball a little bit faster than that this year. But it's a cool project, and they're great guys and support my stuff. So I'm certainly glad to do Field of Dreams stuff with them. But you'll see Wally Berger 30 and 40 homers over the first 2 years. So he has been terrific. Create it and they will come. So Murphy is Murphy's gonna take over in center. Berger probably moves into a DH spot. And then you've got Acuna out there. Lonnie Smith's been pretty solid. Actually, Smith hit 322 last year. Skates also stole 17 bases. He got hurt last year, but Lonnie Smith has actually produced pretty well for them. Bob Horner is going to play every day at third base this year. Horner had a big fall off last year from the year before. Um, he still hit 24 homers, but RBI count was down, on base percentage was way down. So we'll see if Horner can rebound this year. Big pickup for the Braves, Del Crandall, who they took in the rookie draft. So Crandall is going to be part of a platoon there of sorts with Javi Lopez probably behind the plate. Um, the Mets and the Expos have kind of ruled this division for the first 2 years. I keep waiting for the Braves. The Braves' potential pitching is so good. Their pitching has underperformed a little bit. And the Phillies are a really interesting group too. So the Phillies start Cole Hamels, their rookie, certainly their best rookie pickup. Hamels will start off in the rotation this year. So Hamels will bolster that pitching staff a bit. The bullpen, I'm trying to remember what their bullpen was like last year. I remember Farrell wasn't 4.35, 3.68 for Madsen, 2.67 for Meyer, 2.7. Yeah, so the Phillies bullpen last year was really good, actually. Um, their offense has kind of underperformed a little bit, but I think I think all of those guys have, much like my Field of Dreams team, actually, I think they've kind of universally underperformed. So I think they can get some guys, if they a couple of guys from the lineup perform to their abilities. Picking up Chuck Klein last year as the rookie. Klein, the runner-up and rookie of the year to Dizzy Dean, 38 homers, 107 RBIs, 306 for Klein. If they can get a couple more guys offensively to climb on board with Klein, I think the Phillies and the Braves could make a move. This actually could be a really interesting division to watch. Um, I can't see the Mets and the Expos continually leading this division with the guys who the Braves and the Mets and the Expos both got good draws, and the Mets pitching is terrific. Um, but I keep on thinking that the Phillies and the Braves, I thought they were going to make a run last year, but I think the Phillies or the Braves, one of them at least, has to interject themselves into that division race here in year two. In the Central, the Cubbies, a miserable year last year, largely because they had was something like a 13-game losing streak at one point, and they went like 2-17 over some 19-game stretch, and they were around 500 the rest of the time. But that stretch absolutely killed them. They do add Ron Santo, but the Cubs just don't score very much. The Cardinals have won this division in each of the first 2 years. The Cardinals, if you remember last year, Cardinals NLCS Game 7, they've gotten Dizzy Dean and Bob Gibson just throwing absolute gems for them through the postseason. Gibson was incredible. Dean gets the Game 7 start after a great Game 5 start. He comes back on 2 days rest, figuring they're going to get, if they can get 4 innings out of Dean, they'd sign up for it. Dean ends up throwing 5 scoreless. Willie Mays touches him up. The Cardinals are up 6-0 in the sixth. Mays hits a 3-run homer off Dean that contributes to ending Dean's day. And then Mays hits another 3-run homer later off the bullpen. I think it was off Chuck Taylor, actually. And the Giants, after trailing 6-0 in Game 7, come back to win Game 7 and ultimately take home the World Series for year two. But Dizzy Dean, Rookie of the Year and outstanding pitcher. The Cardinals, I still think, are going to be the best team in this division. The Pirates were a wild card team last year. The Pirates add Deacon Philippe to the rotation, which should help them a little bit. No huge gains, but again, the Pirates are just kind of waiting. The Pirates have such talent in their overall player pool who haven't entered the FSBL yet. No Clemente, no Kiner, no Paul Wainer. They do add Lloyd Wainer this year. No Honus Wagner, no Pie Trainer. So, like, the Pirates have just not gotten all their best guys, and they're kind of hanging around. And I joke with our good friend Beatles Eternally, who is a diehard Pirates fan, that I'm just waiting for the year where it comes through, where the Pirates add all those guys at once and turn the entire National League on its ear. So I still think the Cardinals are the best team, but it'll be really, really cool to see how the Pirates can kind of hang with how the pirate if the Pirates can hang with them. Okay, Todd, it's great about this experience and any to kind of remember specifics like a story being told. That is exactly the reason why I do it. Honestly, and because I'm sure it kind of puzzles people a lot, like that I don't get more involved in decision making and managing and all that kind of stuff, and I really just kind of I let the computer take care of as much as I can possibly allow it to take care of, unless I really feel it needs my interjection, because the storytelling is the fun part for me. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy trying to bring this to life. Um, Tell the stories, tell the trades, and thankfully I've got a pretty good memory for like things that happen and stuff like that. I do want to get back to writing about it also, but like seeing the stories weave their way out, like the Red Sox can't get past the Indians and the Cardinals can't get past the Giants. That's now happened 2 years in a row. And the Mets can't get past the Cardinals. So, like, you know, is somebody going to break through that, break over the hump? Year one, the Red Sox won the AL East. So the big thing was, the Red Sox are the only team that can take the A's down because the A's, of course, were the dominant team in year one, and everybody was waiting for that. And then the Indians upset the apple cart that in year one, and they knocked off the Red Sox. So the Red Sox didn't even get their crack at the A's. And then last year, the A's were the foregone conclusion. The Red Sox, despite only getting the wild card because the Yankees won the division last year, the Red Sox now finally get their crack at the A's, and they took the A's down, only to have the Indians take them down in the ALCS. So, like, it's just, you see the stories kind of being woven, even individual player stuff. The Bob Gibson story here is fascinating to me because Gibson has dramatically underperformed in the regular season. He's been up. His ERA has been low fours both years. He's rated about as good as you can rate a pitcher, but it just in the season mode, it just hasn't clicked for him. But in the postseason, Bob Gibson has been exactly what you would expect Bob Gibson to be. So like that has been fun to watch for me. So it's yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Todd, because it's really the purpose of all this. I want to see how this all unfolds. It's why I do it the way I do it with the random entry of the different players and the drafts. And I want there to be trades and I want there to be stuff. I want it to feel like it's a real league that's happening over time, and the stories, and the stories will make the project fun. Um, so yeah, so no, I appreciate that note. I always like when people see it that way because that's kind of what I'm going for. Lastly, we'll go into the NL West. I still think the Giants are the best team there, the defending champions. Remember, they won the National League pennant in year one as well, and they will be the favorites to go and get it done here in year three, too. Keep an eye out, though, for the Dodgers. The Dodgers, with possibly, other than Gibson to the Blue Jays, the Dodgers with the most talked about rookie coming in, Jackie Robinson, will become the everyday second baseman for the Dodgers. Um, Davey Lopes has been terrific actually for the first 2 years. Lopes 283, 349, 433 slash. He's averaged 30 stolen bases a year. So he's been terrific for the Dodgers. But Jackie Robinson is Jackie Robinson. The Dodgers have pitched great. The Dodgers haven't scored enough runs. So Jackie Robinson could spark that. You might see a Lopes at DH, Robinson at second base kind of situation. Give them a kind of a double shot of speed there, and maybe make them a little bit more of an offensive force than they've been in the last 2 years, to try to challenge the Giants. So with that, that's going to wrap this up. Again, I just kind of want to do a little bit of a league preview. I got a couple things to set up for the next couple of days, and then it'll be opening day on Friday. Check the Discord and the Facebook page for which games I'll be doing. For that open day, it'll be at least two. If I have time to record a third beforehand, I'll do it. But there will be at least a doubleheader broadcast on Friday as year three of the FSBL gets underway. Again, there will also be at least one, probably two football broadcasts over the next couple of days, as well as the Franchise Stars Football League continues. Hugely appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks, Todd, Cyro, for joining the chat. MV, always good to see you, my friend, the defending Field of Dreams champion. Buckshot was here as well. Cole was here in the early going as well. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. I'll catch you guys on somebody else's streams or on Discord or wherever you may be as the day continues. Be good to each other, guys, and we'll talk soon.